looking everywhere, that's how the...
Previously on Dead Heart Seductress, Ethan believed he was simply exploring an abandoned estate hidden deep within a lush and forgotten forest. But what he found was far more dangerous and seductive than he ever expected. Haunted by the mesmerizing presence of undead women like Lillia, Isabella, Nadia, and the elusive Clara, Ethan now finds himself caught in a perilous game of love, temptation, and unearthly infection. Each touch, each stolen glance is both a gift and a curse. Their beauty is intoxicating. Their kiss could stop a man's heart. Now, the deeper Ethan goes, the more he loses pieces of himself. The infection isn't only in his veins. It's in his desires, in his thoughts, and in his growing inability to leave. Love is blossoming, but not in the way the living understand it. And this is only the beginning. Coming next, new faces will emerge. Handsome strangers with buried secrets, cursed hunters seeking revenge, and royal undead enchantresses who've waited centuries for Ethan to arrive. The tension will rise, the passion will burn brighter, and the horror will grow far more dangerous. The question is no longer whether Ethan will survive. It's whether he even wants to. Subscribe now to the Zombie Story Zone and follow this seductive nightmare as it spirals into madness. Like, share, and comment your thoughts or theories. Who is your favorite? What's your prediction? The forest is alive, the undead are waiting, and the heart never truly stops beating.
It's a crazy mix.
By dawn, the hollow was quiet again, too quiet. Celeste had not returned to her room. At breakfast, Clara's face was tight with worry. "She's probably wandered off again," she said, but her voice trembled. "She does that sometimes." Marcus and Damien offered to search the woods. Ethan, still unsettled by the strange glow in Celeste's eyes, decided to join them. They split into pairs and walked into the forest, still soaked in dew, the air thick with the scent of pine and something metallic. Ethan and Damien moved in silence at first. Then Damien spoke, his voice rough. "This place feels wrong." "You believe in ghosts now?" Ethan asked, forcing a smile. "No," Damien said, stopping beside a blackened tree. "I believe in danger, and I've learned to listen when the world goes quiet." Elsewhere, Marcus moved deeper alone and found something strange, a trail of white rose petals scattered on the forest floor, leading nowhere. Meanwhile, back at the manor, the atmosphere had shifted. Julius flirted openly with Isabella now, whispering into her ear, making her laugh with wide red lips. Ethan tried to ignore it, but it gnawed at him. He was still drawn to Isabella, but there was something about Vivienne now, her grace, her mystery, the way she watched everything as if she already knew what would happen. In the library, Ethan found her perched on a velvet chair, flipping through a book titled Legends of the Forgotten Hollow. "Find anything interesting?" he asked. She didn't look up. Only warnings dressed as fairy tales, like this one. She read aloud, voice like silk. "To kiss the dead is to feed them. They do not fall in love, they consume." She looked at him then. "Sound familiar?" Ethan's blood ran cold. Vivienne smiled faintly. "You're not the first man to be tempted here, Doctor. The question is, will you be the first to walk away?" Before he could answer, Clara rushed into the room, pale. "Has anyone seen Lucien?" Everyone gathered in the hall. His room was untouched, his bed unslept in. His scent of old roses lingered faintly in the air, but he was gone. "That's two," Seraphina whispered, clutching her journal. Clara's hands shook. This doesn't happen. Not since." She stopped herself. "Since who?" Ethan asked. Clara just shook her head and walked away. That night, the mood was heavier. Rain fell again. No one laughed. No one flirted. Ethan lay in bed, but sleep evaded him, until a hand touched his bare shoulder. Isabella. She climbed beneath the covers, silent and slow, her skin ice cold. She didn't speak. She only kissed him deeply, needily, her hands roaming his chest like a woman starving for warmth. But her eyes didn't close. They stared over his shoulder, unblinking at the window. Ethan turned. Outside in the stormlight stood Lillia, her white gown soaked, her eyes burning like blue fire. Isabella tightened her grip. "She's angry," she whispered. "She doesn't want to share you anymore." Lightning flashed. Ethan blinked. Lillia was gone. But in that moment, he realized something horrifying. He was no longer the hunter of love. He was the prize, and everyone, living or dead, wanted him. The morning after Lucien's disappearance was hushed. Rainwater dripped from the vines outside. The manor had grown colder. The firewood didn't burn as easily. Even the mirrors seemed to fog faster. Ethan sat alone in the breakfast room, a half-finished cup of coffee in his hand. The others trickled in slowly. Marcus, Damien, Vivienne, Seraphina, and Julius. Isabella didn't come. Neither did Clara. When she finally appeared, her hands were shaking as she stirred sugar into her tea. "The roads are washed out," she said quietly. "No one's leaving Valamir. Not for a few days." Ethan stood up. "We need to keep searching. People are disappearing, and no one seems—" "They're not disappearing," Clara cut in, voice sharp. "They're being taken." Silence dropped like a knife. Later, Ethan found Isabella in the conservatory, curled on a couch in a crimson velvet robe. She looked pale, but her beauty had grown. Strange. Her skin flawless, her lips more vivid, her eyes wider than before. "You didn't come to breakfast," he said. She looked at him slowly, as if waking from a dream. "Food doesn't taste right anymore." She stood and walked toward him, barefoot. "But you still do." Ethan tried to smile, but unease prickled down his spine. "You've changed," he whispered. "Love changes us," she replied, brushing a cold hand against his cheek. "And if we love too deeply, it never lets go." That night, Clara lit every candle in the manor. "Stay indoors. Don't look out the windows. And above all, don't follow any voice that calls your name," she warned. But Julius didn't listen. Drawn by laughter he swore was Vivienne's, he wandered beyond the orchard. The next morning, only his coat was found, hanging on a tree branch. No sign of blood, no sign of struggle. Vivienne didn't flinch. He wasn't mine to lose. Meanwhile, Ethan grew restless. He couldn't focus. Not on his notes. Not on his breathing. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Lillia, standing beneath trees, walking barefoot across wet stone, her long fingers trailing over a bed where he dreamed of her touch. He tried to confide in Seraphina, who had grown quieter with each vanishing. "She comes to us all," Seraphina murmured, "sometimes in dreams, sometimes in mirrors." Ethan looked at her sharply. "What do you mean?" "She kissed me too," Seraphina whispered. "I thought I wanted it until I felt my heartbeat skip. That's how she begins. That's how she feeds." That night, Ethan found Isabella standing naked in the garden, bathed in moonlight. "Don't go," she said, stepping toward him. "She's close now. I feel her inside me, like a second soul." He wrapped a blanket around her trembling shoulders, but her eyes glowed faintly in the dark. "You're not hers," he whispered. "You're still human." She touched her lips to his. "I'm not sure I want to be." A howl echoed from the forest. Far away, something began to move. The lovers of the dead were waking. And soon. Ethan would have to choose. The warmth of a woman who still bled, or the kiss of a seductress who never would. The doors of Raventhorn Manor had long been locked by rust and silence. But on the 8th night, Seraphina found the key, tucked inside the pages of an old journal, its cover embossed with a red rose and the name, Lillia Raventhorn. That evening, under a blood-red moon, she led Ethan through the woods. Wind curled through the trees, brushing their faces like a whisper from the grave. "I read the legend," Seraphina said, clutching the journal. "Lillia was never buried. They built this house around her, to keep her inside." The manor stood like a cathedral of grief. Its gates opened with a low groan. Ivy clung to its stone skin like veins. The air smelled of rotting roses and old perfume. Inside, the silence was crushing. Their footsteps echoed through a grand hall of broken chandeliers, torn curtains, and faded portraits. Dust hung like ghost breath. Ethan ran his hand along the wall. "Feels like it's still alive." "Maybe it is." They followed the journal's map to a staircase that spiraled downward into darkness. The cellar was cold, stone-lined, and silent, until they reached the final door, sealed with iron chains. The journal trembled in Seraphina's hands. She called it the blood room. They cut the chains with a crowbar. The door creaked open, and the scent hit them first. Roses, death, and something deeper. Inside was a circular chamber, lit by soft, pulsing red light. The walls were lined with vines that moved ever so slightly. In the center stood a marble pedestal holding a preserved wedding bouquet, its flowers blackened, yet perfectly intact. Beside it was a bed. Ethan froze. It was the same bed from his dreams, and lying upon it was her, Lillia. Eyes closed, hands crossed over her chest, skin like marble, lips red as fresh blood. She looked asleep, but her chest didn't rise. Seraphina whispered, "She's not dead." Ethan stepped closer. His pulse raced. Lillia's eyes suddenly opened. Blue. Burning. ancient. He stumbled backward as she sat up, graceful, effortless. "You came," she said softly. Her voice echoed in his mind. "You always do?" Seraphina gasped and dropped the journal. Lillia turned to her. "You read my story, but you don't understand it." She rose to her feet, barefoot and elegant. "I loved once, and they took him from me, so now I find others to replace the heartbeat I lost." She looked at Ethan. "Yours is the sweetest I've ever heard." Seraphina grabbed Ethan's hand. "We need to leave, now." But Ethan didn't move. He felt Lillia's pull like gravity. Her beauty, her sorrow, her hunger. "I can give you forever," she whispered. Seraphina yanked him toward the door. Lillia didn't follow. She only smiled. "I don't chase, Doctor. I wait. You'll come back." They always do. They ran from the manor, hearts pounding, breath short. The woods closed behind them. Back at the inn, Seraphina locked every window. "We saw her," she told the others. "She's real." Isabella, sitting by the fire, turned her head slowly. "She already kissed you," she said to Ethan. "You belong to her now." And in the shadows, the vines of Raventhorn stretched. The Dead Heart Seductress had awakened, and she would never sleep again. Ethan awoke, gasping. He wasn't in his room. He was in the orchard, shirtless, barefoot, the moonlight kissing his skin like cold silk. Around him, petals floated in the wind. The trees whispered with unseen voices. His hands trembled. He didn't remember walking here. He didn't remember dreaming. All he remembered was her. Lillia. Her touch like ice, her lips like fire. Her voice echoing, "Soon, your heart will know peace." He stumbled back to the inn, skin damp with dew. Clara stood at the back door, arms crossed, fear hidden in her tired eyes. "You were with her again," she said. "I don't remember." "She's inside you now," Clara said. "Not in your mind, in your blood." Inside, the manor had grown quieter. The others were fading, one by one. Iris Bloom now slept during the day and walked the halls at night, barefoot, humming lullabies in a tongue no one knew. Seraphina hadn't written in her journal in days. Her eyes darted like she was being watched even in sunlight, and Isabella was changing. That evening, she appeared in Ethan's room, uninvited again, wearing a silk slip and nothing beneath. Her skin was radiant, glowing softly like candlelight, her movements slower, her kisses colder, but her lips were still desperate. "You're pulling away," she said. "I saw her again," Ethan confessed. "She touched me, and I think something inside me is cracking." Isabella climbed into his lap and pressed her hand to his chest. "Your heart still beats," she whispered. "I feel it. I want it." She kissed him with hunger, but something in her breath smelled wrong, not of perfume or wine, of soil, and roses buried too long. When they finished, Ethan lay beside her, unable to sleep. Her eyes remained open beside him, wide and gleaming in the dark. She whispered, "Would you still love me if I didn't bleed?" He said nothing. She smiled. "You will." The next day, Damien went missing. No one searched. Marcus paced the hallway, whispering to himself, "They're not gone, they're still here, just not themselves anymore." In the mirror, Ethan barely recognized his own face. He was paler, leaner. His heartbeat, when he checked it, was slower, much slower. He found Seraphina sitting alone in the chapel room, lighting candles in the shape of a heart. "She's killing us softly," she whispered, "not with claws, with kisses." Ethan crouched beside her. "We have to leave. There's nowhere to go. This place is closed in now like a womb or a coffin." That night, the storm returned. Windows rattled, doors moaned, vines curled along the outer walls of the inn, creeping closer. Ethan lay awake, listening to Isabella breathe beside him, only she wasn't. She was perfectly still. No rise, no fall, no sound. He placed a hand on her chest, no heartbeat. But when she opened her eyes, she smiled. "I love you more now," she whispered. "Now I understand how to keep you." Outside, Lillia stood in the rain, arms outstretched. Behind her, the dead began to move, graceful and beautiful and broken. The hollow was no longer just haunted, it was hungry. The next morning, Isabella was gone. Not missing, just vanished. Her bed was cold. Her robe lay folded on the floor. A single white rose rested on her pillow, its petals already turning black. Ethan stood there, heart aching, yet strangely numb. He found Clara in the cellar, rummaging through crates of old records and dried herbs. "She's gone to her," Clara said before he could speak. "Lillia takes her lovers slowly. One kiss, one dream, one heartbeat at a time, until they forget they were ever alive. I want her back," Ethan said. Clara looked up sharply. Then you'll have to face her. She handed him a silver dagger, ornate, ancient, carved with vines. This is the only thing that can wound her. It's made from the iron that pierced her groom's heart when he betrayed her. Her curse was born from heartbreak. Only heartbreak can end it. Ethan took the blade, his hands shaking. That night, he returned to Raventhorn Manor. The front doors opened before he touched them. Candles lit the hallway one by one, leading him through the ruins of luxury, past portraits of beautiful, hollow-eyed women, past dresses left folded like skin, past the scent of rose petals and blood. At the heart of the house, Lillia waited. She stood beneath a ceiling of stained glass, her long black hair flowing like a shadowy veil. Her gown trailed behind her like mist. Her smile was both tragic and terrifying. "You came back," she said softly. "I want Isabella," Ethan said. "I want her alive." Lillia walked slowly toward him, barefoot, every step echoing like a heartbeat in a tomb. "She is alive, just not yours anymore. You're turning them all into something else." "I'm turning them into what I became," she said, eyes glowing faintly. "Beautiful, eternal, untouched by betrayal." She circled him like a predator. "Do you know what it's like to be buried in silk, still breathing? To feel your heart stop not from death, but from despair?" She touched his chest gently. "I don't want your blood, Ethan. I want your love. Real, pure, the kind that doesn't fade after the first grave." He raised the dagger between them. Her smile didn't falter. "Will you stab me now, when I've finally found someone whose heart doesn't lie?" Ethan trembled, and that's when he heard it. A soft moan from the shadows. Isabella. She stood by the grand piano, her dress torn, her skin pale. Her lips were blue, but her eyes still shimmered with something human. "Ethan," she whispered, "don't choose her, please." Lillia's voice darkened. "She's already halfway mine." "Do you really think love can save what's already dead?" Ethan stepped between them, dagger raised, his body a shield. "I'll save her or die trying." Lillia tilted her head. "So be it," she said. "But remember, no one leaves the hollow without a broken heart." She vanished in a gust of wind and petals, leaving Ethan gasping, Isabella collapsing into his arms. But as he held her, he felt it. Her heart was beating again. Slowly, weakly, but beating. Hope had not yet died, but neither had the Dead Heart Seductress. The hollow was changing. Once lush and green, the forest around Raventhorn Manor had begun to rot from within. The leaves turned black at the edges. Vines wept red sap. Birds stopped singing. And still, Lillia's spell deepened. Inside the inn, Isabella lay in Ethan's bed, her heart beating faintly, her skin warmer than before, but her eyes different, distant, as if part of her still lived in the arms of a ghost. She spoke rarely now. When she did, it was in riddles. "She's inside the roots, the place where her heart broke, under the sycamore tree. That's where she still cries." Ethan repeated those words to Seraphina, who hadn't left the old chapel room in days. She nodded grimly. "The sycamore tree," Seraphina said, flipping through one of her grandfather's forbidden journals. "That's where Lillia's original body was buried. Her soul roams, but her grief clings to the roots. It's her altar and her prison." "She dies if we destroy the tree?" Ethan asked. "She shatters," Seraphina whispered. "But so might the ones she's bound, like Isabella." Ethan looked toward the stairs, torn. He loved Isabella. But if saving her meant destroying what kept her heart beating, "I'll do it," he said. "Whatever it takes." That night, under the cover of fog and silence, Ethan, Seraphina, and Marcus ventured into the dying woods. Marcus carried a torch. Seraphina held the silver dagger. Ethan carried only his fear. They found the sycamore tree at the heart of a sunken grove. Its bark was white as bone. Its roots split the earth like veins. Roses bloomed from the soil around it, blood red, shimmering unnaturally in the moonlight. "It's beautiful," Marcus said, stepping forward. Too late. The roots lashed out, silent, swift, coiling around his leg and yanking him into the air. The torch flew from his hand. Flames licked the edge of a rosebush. Then Lillia appeared. Not as a ghost, but real. She rose from the base of the tree like a shadow reborn, dressed in flowing black, her eyes glowing faintly gold. "You followed the heartbreak," she said softly. "That's brave or foolish." Seraphina lunged with the dagger, but Lillia vanished and reappeared behind her in a blink. "I never wanted this war," Lillia whispered into Seraphina's ear. "I just wanted to be loved." "Was that so wicked?" Ethan yelled, "Release Marcus!" Lillia turned to him. "Why? He never believed in love. He laughed at me at the ball. Called me a hollow bride." Let him dangle. Then take me, Ethan said, stepping forward. Her eyes narrowed. You would trade yourself for him? For all of them. For a long moment, silence. Then she smiled. No, Ethan, she whispered. You're mine already. You just haven't accepted it yet. She vanished. The roots dropped Marcus. The torch died. Seraphina gasped. She's letting us go. That means something's changed. As they helped Marcus limp back to the inn, Ethan knew one thing. Lillia didn't want to kill him. She wanted him to choose her. And that was far more dangerous. To be continued. The forest has grown darker. The mansion's secrets are rising. And Ethan, he's no longer running. He's becoming one of them. But just as he surrenders to love's cold touch, something ancient begins to stir. A hidden betrayal, a buried curse, and a blood-bound prophecy threaten to unravel everything. Who will Ethan trust when even the most beautiful kiss hides a deadly truth? The next chapter will push desire to its breaking point and drag you deeper into a world where romance is haunting and horror wears a human face. Don't miss what comes next. Subscribe to the Zombie Story Zone now and turn on notifications so you never miss a heartbeat or a scream. Hit like if you're feeling the tension rise, and comment below. Do you believe Ethan can still be saved, or has he already crossed the line? The seduction isn't over. The danger has just begun. See you in the next chapter, if your heart can take it.
Cover the fright in the zombie story zone. We'll survive the night. We'll survive the night. From the graveyards to the streets, hear the whispers low. Every story's a thrill, come and let your courage show. Fight or flight, we'll unite.